Welcome to So Much Fun. I'm Colleen Murphy and I teach sewing. And today I thought we would talk about binding and how you finish the binding once you have completed your quilt. You know, so many of my students, they know how to sew the binding onto the quilt, but then after they've gone all the way around, they don't know how to join it at the very end. They always bring it to me and say, I don't know how to do this. Will you do it for me? So I thought I would give you a lesson so you would know how to do it. As we all know in sewing, there's always more than one way to do things. So you may have your own technique, but I have found this one to be about as easy as it can be. And it doesn't require really any extra tools other than a measuring tape or a seam guide. So you decide at what point you want to join it, and you just cut it off, all right? From that point, and by the way, I should go back and say, it is very critical that when you're doing this, that the folded edge is next to you, not away from you, but next to you. This method won't work if you don't have it placed the way I'm showing. Folded edge of the bias tape must be next to you. You cut it at a point that you want, and then you measure over 2.5 inches because that is the width of your bias tape. Now, if you're using a different width, then of course you would adjust that, but I like 2.5. Then from that 2.5 inch, you take the right end of the binding and cut it off exactly 2.5 inches. That makes it a lot easier than dealing with a lot of extra binding that you're not going to be using. From there, the next step will be that you pin it together. And notice that when I pinned it together, I did not put the two edges together. I left a little gap. And you'll want to do that because it'll add just a little bit of tension, and it'll help it lie flatter than if you put it edges together. And then if you need, draw a line, and you're drawing the line from the lower right to the upper left. And check it out before you sew it. I like to put pins in the line and then pull it to see if it's going to be just the right length so that you don't have any extra or that it's not going to be too tight. So basically, going back over this again, it always helps to repeat. The first step is cutting it at a point where you want to make your seam, measuring over 2.5 inches from that, taking the right edge of the right end of the binding, lay it on top, and have it cut 2.5 inches from that first cut. Keeping in mind that you absolutely must have the folded edge of your binding on your side, not away from you. And once you do the cut, then you can open up the right side and the left side. You'll have to bring them over together, and then you're just going to lay the right side of the binding on top of the other, leaving a gap, just a little bit of a gap, and then you're going to be sewing from the lower right to the upper left. And it's just that simple. Doesn't look like it would be, but it really is. So here's the last quilt that I have made, and I'm at that point of doing my binding, and I do have extra on here, and I find that having the extra can make it more confusing. But I started out just what I demonstrated, but I wanted to keep that here. And you notice when you look at it this way, it looks like I've done it opposite of what I've just said, but it really isn't, because when I did it, I had it turned around like this. Let me get it here. Okay, like that. Lower right to upper left. And when you pull it, you'll see that it's going to be just right. Give it a try. I would recommend you practice And do it a few times with some extra fabric and some extra binding before you actually do it on your quilt. But after you've done it a few times and you get that in your memory bank, you'll be happy and you'll be able to put your binding together. I hope this video will be helpful for you as you close your binding on your next quilt. Please like and subscribe and be sure to watch some of our other videos and have so much fun.